Dude,
Yeah,
$1,000 for a pound of coffee.
I consider myself a coffee snob, but I would never pay anywhere near that for coffee.
I honestly have tried to take the mystical, extremely expensive label off of it
Okay.
and just try to see if it's not hype. To me, it's not hype. Like it's really, really, really good. Welcome to the Coffee Snobs Podcast, where we just really love good coffee.
Grab your cup of coffee and join us each episode as we explore any and everything coffee related.
From pour-overs to lattes to the coffee experience, we explore it all. Because, well, life's too short to drink bad coffee. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Coffee Snobs Podcast. My name is Tyler Dancy. I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Aaron Beaver. Greetings and salutations, Aaron. How are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Have you broken any of your New Year's resolutions yet? Are you sticking with them?
Yeah, I have not broken. I am trying to add a cup of water to every cup of coffee that I drink. So in between a cup, I have to drink a cup of water. So
That's a good idea. Stay well hydrated. And
yeah.
How have your trips to the bathroom increased? Probably significantly.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this morning, by 11, I had 4 cups of coffee. So that would have doubled of 8 cups of water at least. So,
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, good. Well, I hope all of our listeners made a New Year's resolution to drink more coffee and to learn more about coffee, because we have a really exciting episode today, which we'll get to momentarily. But first, let's start with what's new in the coffee game.
What's new with you?
Well, still enjoying. I got several varieties of beans for the holidays that I'm still going through. Merit coffee out of San Antonio has continued to be really, really good and tasty. I've been brewing a lot more Americanos in the mornings. Trying to cut out. I love my lattes, but trying to stop my daily latte habit. Maybe cut that back to once or twice a week.
Is it just for the milk content, or what's the purpose of that?
Well, I guess just to mix it up. I mean, the calorie content, just kind of to mix things up. I don't know if I really want to experiment with like coconut milk, but who knows? Something like that.
What about like almond or oat?
Now, my wife, I love her to death, but she has almond milk, and she makes a lot of smoothies. And almond milk, it's good in smoothies, but I accidentally drank some one time thinking it was regular milk. And
ruined you, huh?
It was gross.
Yeah.
So I have heard a lot of good things about oat milk. A lot of fine establishments use. So I think I'm going to check that out sometime.
I got a oat milk caramel latte from Not Just Coffee. Right before the holidays, and it just tastes a little more weedy, I guess it would be a way to put it, but it's definitely good.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give it a shot. But anyway, still enjoying my espresso just in Americano form. So that's enough for me. Aaron, what is new with you in the coffee game?
Well, after the episode about my pour-over recipe, I got a lot of inquiries on my Instagram. People asking me about different recipes and how to do it, because it's kind of hard when you're listening to someone kind of walk through the instructions and then having to remember it in later. So I was able to share the recipe with a few people, as well talked with Gabe, the owner of Groundwork Coffee, about
He's a good dude.
About a pour-over recipe. I'm not going to go into super detail of it because I'm still trying to unpack it.
Trade secret. Huh?
Well, no, he just dropped a lot of knowledge on me, and I'm trying to figure out a few of the things that he said. But here's what I will say. I have tried a pour-over recipe where you still have a blooming process from the first pour I wait about 45 seconds, but after that, I continuously pour a very minimal amount continuously
Of water.
of water just over the coffee bed, and it's the quickest brew time that I have gotten up until this moment. I'm not going to reveal it all because it's going to be an episode here soon, but I will say that my pour over has gone to another level. And Gabe, if you're listening, I appreciate the challenge and the knowledge that you dropped on me, because man, the pour over right now is probably some of the best cups of coffee I have ever had.
I just had a mental image of, like, you remember those old church cookbooks with we'll have a pour over recipe cookbook.
Dude, yes.
There's $1 million idea.
Man.
Trademark Coffee Snobs.
Coffee snobs.
Alrighty. Well, cool. It's always good to learn new things.
Here's the thing. We're going to need an idea like that if we're going to keep drinking the coffee that we're talking about today.
This
We're
is true.
going to need $1 million idea.
Yes, to pay for our habit is the dirty secret. Well, do you know what, Aaron? That is a fantastic segue, because today we are talking about something maybe you haven't heard about before. Is a variety of coffee called Geisha coffee.
So one of the things when you're searching the Geisha coffee, the spelling of it is very interesting, because from what I have found in scouring the web, and please scour, cross-reference, and fact-check everything that we're saying, but there are two ways to spell it, and really nobody can, like, put a definitive, this is how you spell it. So the first way is Gesha, and then the second way is Geisha. So those two variations are just kind of, when you search, somebody may have created a post with one title that doesn't support the evidence of another page with a different spelling. So just know when you're diving through it. And there have been people that have used these two words to kind of market a fake bean, is what we'll kind of say. So just know.
Sidebar. So geisha is also a term for a Japanese woman. You might have, if you can bring a mental image, you'll see them in their face is typically like painted white and their hair's done up. So anyway, that might confuse you, but geisha is some Japanese term for females, but this is talking about coffee. And geisha coffee is infamous because it is known as the most expensive coffee in the world.
Yes. It rivals very close to those coffee beans that get pooped out by the monkeys.
Yeah, I've heard that. Just sounds really weird, but maybe that's another future topic. But for today, we're going to be talking about, we were able to allocate some geisha coffee beans from our friends at Trade Coffee. No, I'm just kidding. We have a very good source that was able.
We'll say gifted. We were gifted with
a couple pounds actually.
Yeah.
Of geisha coffee, and the clickbait title is, geisha coffee has sold for over $1,000 a pound.
Yeah, and in 2019, it sold for $1,019 a pound. Now this is Panama Gesha, so there is. We'll get into this a little bit of the detail, but the geisha that we got is from Panama, so that kind of gives you a little clarification too, because you may search geisha coffee and you're going to see different. But ours that we got was from Panama. So
yeah, and disclaimer: we did not pay anywhere near that price. The ad revenue has just not come in yet. The Google AdSense checks have not hit yet. So anyway, all right, on to today's topic: geisha coffee. So let's get a quick overview of geisha coffee. So geisha became famous in 2004. There was a brewing contest, and you had a bunch of international judges. They were doing
they were doing a cupping.
Cupping, excuse me, of a bunch of coffee beans. So they're going through this table that is like Central American in Panama, and they're like, wait a minute, this tastes like an Ethiopian coffee. It's very fruit forward. It's really smooth. So who put this Ethiopian in this Central American coffee thing? So that was actually not Ethiopian coffee, which Aaron, you and I have talked about numerous times about our love of Ethiopian coffee.
Correct.
But this was actually a coffee that was grown in Panama, which you normally think about like, your more traditional coffee flavors, earthy, stuff like that. So that's when Geisha came on the scene, 2004. And this is something we'll talk about in the next little bit of the episode. What happened after that to elevate the price? Is it all in your head? Is it straight hype, or is it really good?
Yeah. So to dive a little deeper into this geisha, in the 1930s, British colonialists took this plant from Ethiopia. So it is a derivative or like a branch out of an Ethiopian. So that's why these judges at this brewing table were tasting an Ethiopian, because the plant originated in the 1930s from Ethiopia, and so it was a transplant plant in there. And so one of the reasons that it's yielding a price point is because the Central America coffee that should have been in this competition, or should have been on this table, should not taste like this. It should not have the round, we're going to call it, in the descriptor, we're going to call it a round body, where it has a traditional coffee taste as well as some fruitier notes, which give it a very unique, just think about lining that up with a traditional cup of coffee. Like if you had something that tasted or cupped that different, it would be something that stands out. So I think that's why it's drove the price up, as well as the limited, or maybe the interest in it has limited quantities, which runs the price up astronomical. Dude, $1,000 for a pound of coffee.
I consider myself a coffee snob, but I would never pay anywhere near that for coffee. But I think, like you were saying, one of the reasons it's expensive is the care with which the geisha varieties are grown. Think like extremely small batch. If you see a geisha coffee that you're rich and planning to buy, don't be fooled by fake geisha, because sometimes you might have seen Kona coffee. Hawaii, the island or the volcano, I believe, of Kona is famous for producing really good coffee. So if you do a search on Amazon for Kona coffee, you might see something that seems reasonably priced. Well, it's actually it's a blend, and maybe a very, very, very small percentage of that is actual legit Kona coffee. So in the same vein, make sure it's actually geisha. It's not some weird blend or something.
Yeah, and make sure it's sourced properly. So we want to give the disclaimer, because when dealing with a product that is so astronomically priced per everything else on the market. Even think about this, like Onyx and their $100 4-ounce bags. That seems cheap to
compared to this,
to a $1,000 pound of coffee. So, but one of the things that make geisha coffee so loved, or the price, and true coffee connoisseurs that could really tell the difference, is the actual bean. And when it's put under lab test, it scores very high on different levels, different coffee scale testing levels. So I would kind of classify it, from the stuff that I've read, of it's a pure origin of a cherry plant. If that makes sense. It's not been crossbred
Yeah.
It's pretty pure. It's very interesting. If it's transplanted from another place, you would think it would be crossbred.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a botanist. Maybe somebody who's smart with science, like Adam Byerly, maybe he knows more about it. But anyway, bottom line, we got our hands on some Panama Gesha coffee. We paid nowhere near $1,000 a pound for this coffee, and we tasted it in a few varieties. And now we're going to talk about that.
Yes.
So, Aaron, how many different ways have you been able to try the geisha coffee?
I have tried it in, let's see, first a 6 to 8 cup Chemex, a 1 to 3 cup Chemex, pre-rinsed filter, pre-rinsed dried filter, meaning pre-rinse the filter, let it dry, then use it. Let's see, I've done a siphon multiple ways. So I've done the siphon brew where you allow the water to come up to temp, and then you pour the coffee in and let the coffee submerge for 1 minute. Then you've already removed the heat, so it's no longer boiling, and then I have drank it that way. I have done the other way in siphon to where you pour the coffee in, the water comes up to a boil, it immerses the coffee, the water immerses the coffee, and it is in the little brewing vessel for much longer, which those are always my favorite way of drinking or brewing coffee. Have done it in espresso, our Wega machine at the office. I have done it in my Gaza machine at the house, and I've done an Americana. I've done a latte. I've done a French press. I've literally done, my wife's single cup pour over.
V60?
No, it's not a V60. It's just a Bobo plastic one, so we don't break it at the house.
Oh, well, good grief.
Yeah.
You have had this coffee in quite a few ways. So you gave me a few measly grams compared to the pounds you've been trying, but I still appreciate it, bud. So I've tried it in a much more limited setting. I have tried it in a V60 pour over, in a Kalita pour over, and in an espresso, straight espresso shot. So those are my basis of giving my.
So for our listeners, I've really tried to find words to describe it very well, so that way you could, you may not ever get your this in your cup. I doubt I'll ever get this again in my cup. And I may, but if I could kind of paint a picture for you, and Tyler help me with this, but I would say start with an Ethiopian, and then the best Central America coffee that you have, run it like, let's say 70% Ethiopian and 30% the best Central America coffee you've had, like a blend. So it has a little bit of what I would say earthy.
I would describe it as, it tastes kind of like you said, it tastes like coffee. It tastes like a Central American coffee to me, but you definitely notice the fruit notes, which I'm fond of from Ethiopian coffee, and there was no acidity to me. It was very smooth, and I know this is just a weird word to describe coffee, but I would just describe it as it had a round taste to it. It was just very smooth and drinkable and delicious.
No, I agree that terminology of round, there was very little in every way that I tried it. I tried it in multiple different water to grind ratios, because I really wanted to try to see, like, okay, if I change the grind on this, if I what happens, like how could I brew it to make it taste differently, because there's definitely different ways of brewing coffee which can yield different results, like can taste drastically different just because of the amount of time the coffee sets in water. So I really tried to deep dive into it, and I honestly have tried to take the mystical, extremely expensive label off of it.
Okay.
And just to try to see if it's not hype, but to me it's not hype. Like it's really 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 good. Like I took about 3 or 4 cups to Tony and Enderley, and I haven't been back to see his thoughts on it, because I gave him enough where he could have multiple cups of it. I actually gave him more than I gave you.
What a turd.
Well, listen, I'm
get no respect around here, people.
I'm very interested. Like, there is a hype to the dollar amount. Like, we've all bought Onyx coffee, where it's like $32 for, I think what's a 10-ounce bag?
I think you got ripped off, my friend. But yeah, you paid a lot for a 12-ounce bag.
But so you spend a lot of money and you're like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah.
And when in reality, like, I'm not saying the Onyx coffee is not good, so take that away. But what I'm saying is, because it cost more, you think it's better.
Yeah, I mean that's with so many things. You think $100 bottle of wine is better than a $10 bottle from Aldi's, and clothing and marketing and all that stuff. But let me ask you this point blank. What's the most you think you'd be willing to pay per pound?
It's tough, because it's a good cup of coffee. Knowing how balanced it is and knowing how consistent, I probably would pay. It would be a special occasion bag, but I'd probably pay about $30 for a bag, 30, 40 maybe.
Yeah, that's funny, because I thought you were going to possibly say more. That's probably about what I would pay. Again, it was very good, and I'm very appreciative of being able to taste this coffee, and I can definitely see why it's prized for its the qualities it has. But at the end of the day, that's a lot of money for coffee.
A lot of money.
And I mean, I really like coffee, but for 30 or $40, I could get 2 really good bags of coffee from 2 different roasters. So,
like, for instance, here's a good example. You go to Trader Joe's and you can get that $6 bag. And I personally think that there is a difference between that $6 bag and what Tony at Enderley offers. Like, I think there's a quality difference. So could I save $6 by getting an Aldi bag? Sure. But I would much rather spend the extra money to get a bag from Tony at Enderley.
Oh, 100%.
So,
I mean, I'm always going, if options are fairly close, I'm going to try to support my local small business.
But here's what I'm saying. I don't think that this Panama Gesha is the margin difference between, like, where the margin difference in quality between Trader or Aldi and Enderley. There's not a marginal difference between Enderley and this Panama Gesha. So, like, I would much rather, if I had the option, I'm going to save my money and get Enderley all day long, because it's a very good bag of beans. I just don't think that it's good. It's just not great.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the way, it could be the way that it's roasted. I mean, that's a big variable.
We don't really know how old the bean was when it was roasted, because the green coffee bean could have, I'm not even really sure how long those are good for. But anyway, it was very good, but there's other factors as far as the age of the coffee, the roast of the coffee that could possibly be coloring our perception of it. But anyway, I get to say I tried the world's most expensive coffee, and most people
do.
didn't. So ha 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 ha.
I know. Well, see, that's
very snobbish.
It is very snobbish. Yeah. And so, here's the takeaway. If you want a takeaway, it's good. It's really good. Is it $1,000 good? No, but it's really good.
I would second that. Very good, but there's no coffee on this planet, to me personally, that I would pay $1,000 for.
No, it's got to be a hallucinogen or something like that to pay.
But again, I thank you, Aaron, for turning me on to the Geisha coffee. I'd feel a little bit knocked down since apparently I got the least amount of it. I'm holding out hope that maybe Chad hasn't even had much of it, but you probably made him a bunch of cups, so whatever.
Oh, don't be hurt, Tyler.
Well, it's okay. I love coffee. I love talking about coffee with you. We have got some really fun episodes coming up. Some interviews with people. As we mentioned on last episode, we're working on a really fun event local to the Concord, Charlotte area. So we will have details about that coming up soon. But for now, we are going to wind down. Again, thanks for listening to the Coffee Snobs podcast. If you can just take 30 seconds, go to your podcast platform of choice, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Just leave us a quick rating and review. That helps to spread the word. And feel free. We always love hearing from listeners on social media. We're Coffee Snobs Podcast on Instagram, or you can send us an old-fashioned email, hello@coffeesnobs.net. If people want to reach out to you, Aaron, like it seems like they do quite often, how can they reach you?
It's going to be Aaron Beaver, AARON BEAVER. You can drop me a message in my direct message. I'm always posting.
Slide into his DMs.
I'm always posting stories, coffee stories in my stories. I love talking about coffee. And if you're ever in the Charlotte area,
he'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Yeah, seriously, let me know. You're more than welcome to come to our office, and we will make you any type of coffee you would like. 100%. We're right off of 77, and at any time you give me a 5-minute notice, I'll clear my schedule and we'll have coffee. So
boom. And again, guys, if you have any topics that you would like to be listening to, learning about, or questions, drop us a line. We will get right on that. And Mr. Chad, we love Chad. He is a very busy man.
Well, he's got this podcast that's taking off, so it's just consuming his time. So
we'll have Chad back shortly, but like I said, hopefully you can stand listening to these two guys most of the time because you're stuck with us for a little bit. Chad Lingefelt is on social media. Chad Lingefelt, the F is silent, or you can reach him at lockdoc.net. Oh, and I forgot, guys. Sorry. If you want to reach me on social media, Ty Dancy, TYDANCY. And we've already covered Aaron and everybody else. So that's going to wrap up this episode of the Coffee Snobs podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. We will catch you shortly.
Adios.